This is why. This is the whole point of the album, right here. I'm gonna give it to you. I'm gonna open up Paint real quick. This is why the album is hitting for people. Where's my little brush? Can I draw? Okay, yeah, cool. Dope, mega awesome. Let's just say this is super obscure, right? But you've got a drum, and you've got a guitar, and it's definitely a kind of Captain Beefheart guitar. Let's make sure it's got a little F hole in there. But here's the thing. So you've got that, and then you've got the bass. You've got the bass, and basically what ends up happening is your drums, you might have some crazy time signature, right? And then you might have something nuts happening over here with the guitar. And then the bass might be doing something kind of nutso over here too, right? Actually, you know what? No, bass, just locked and loaded, right? These guys are not going to syncopate except once every, 77 X amount of beats, right? Some things will, like these guys are going to syncopate before these guys will, right? Like these will syncopate after these did. But eventually things are going to syncopate. And when they do, people's brains who are wired for sound are like, oh, because it's cool. And we're like, yes. But until then, and for the weak-hearted who cannot just go on an adventure until we get to, 11 times 77 is, that's 77. 77 times 4, let's go ahead, and that's, 28, so put down the 8, carry the 2, 28, 300. So once every 308 beats, in my example here, it will syncopate all in unison, and then, like, orgasms happen, right? But the grind to get through those 308 beats is like, oh! It's not for the faint of heart, dude. And this album seems to just be quintessentially that. Like, it is just designed. Maybe I'm wrong. Tell me if you disagree with me, okay? But like, this is kind of how I'm seeing this right now. Because I'm having these micro orgasm moments where things minimally syncopate. When everything comes into play, I'm like, oh. But then it's like, eventually it gets back to the grind of getting back up there. Like, I think it wants to be considered high art. I think, or pretentiously even, it like, because I think high art is kind of a dickish phrase. Right? But it feels like this kind of wants to be high art, but maybe it's like being a I don't know, a caricature of it. Even maybe it's being like maybe it's like a a modest proposal, but of music. I don't know. We waited that whole song to get the magical like beat 308, right? Like after everything finally syncopated, we got this, right? And at the very end of that song, there is a sweet release, like a sweet eureka release, where we are finally just gifted a few friggin' moments of like honey mustard. Even it's not even it's just like we're not just like grinding the stones of stone ground mustard. We're getting a little bit of honey mustard. I think this has just my Microsoft Paint picture has just as much an argument to be high art. It was just significantly easier for me to do. Hey, yo, Skylight, love you, good night, thank you again. I really disagree with what I just said there. I think I'm saying it because it's a funny thing to say and not necessarily because I actually think it, because I do think I'm not equipped to be able to play in a band like this, and I wouldn't be able to do it. I don't think it's like revolutionizing music, but I think it absolutely gives a rock and roll concept to Tension and Release, maybe, as best I can tell. This is like the earliest rock and roll version of it, as far as I know. It's definitely art, but there is a but it's sound. It's a different kind of art. I don't know. I don't know. But it's snobbish and dickish of me to say it's not art either, just because I don't like it or don't like all of it, right? It's like we can't say it's not art. It's just not art that is agreeable to everybody. There is plenty of art that is intentionally designed to go against the grain of people, and this is without question doing that. And I feel like it's sure a hard listen, and maybe it rewards repeated listens, but then it's also kind of one of those things where it's like, I think I saw somebody say earlier, like, I could just listen to music that I really like immediately. And maybe there is something to be said about, like, the person that got this as a like a Christmas present. They didn't know what music they were getting. They just got a record that looked like it was cool, right? And they listened to that, and that's like the record that they have, and they just keep listening to it, and they fall in love with it because of the amount of repeat listens where they've invested themselves in this chaotic friggin' mess of a world of music. And to me, there's a little bit of an element that's actually kind of cool. Like, I could see that being the case and ending up in a scenario where you just ended up liking it by proxy. People ask me why I like Nickelback. It's because my Uncle John got me a Nickelback CD, and it was the first secular music CD other than Now 6 that I had. So the first non-Christian music that I ever really got to listen to as a kid was Nickelback. And so yes, I like Nickelback, and I don't care what people say about it. But I don't know that I feel like I don't know. I feel like there is Nickelback for me is probably somebody's Captain Beefheart. And I think that a lot of people would rather listen to this than Nickelback. But it's also like I'm sitting here wrestling with whether or not I think it's genius or not. Because just because in my brain, it's like just because they're playing on rhythm, right? Like just because they're doing a thing where you have an instrument doing a crazy time signature with another one doing a crazy time signature and another one doing maybe a regular, maybe a crazy time signature. And, you know, we're all waiting for that beloved, magical, syncopated beat right over here, right? We just want that to happen. And so maybe there is an element of genius in that that's just as genius as the most beautiful, arpeggiated, and ridiculously syncopated guitar solo you've ever heard. I don't know. Who's to determine what the greater genius is, like rhythm or tonality? Was done. That was a journey. That I think I just need a break from music after that one for a night. That was one of the gnarliest. It was by far the most avant-garde thing I've ever heard. Never heard anything like it. I can't even say I've heard anything that kind of sounds like it. I've heard moments within some songs from some artists that are occasionally like this. But I've never heard something that was just that in your face with what the F, such as this. But I did it, and it's like that in and of itself feels pretty awesome. And I do think, again, the best way I can explain this whole album is by my little diagram here, where you have instruments that are in varying different time signatures, and eventually they all syncopate together to hit this magical number beat, which could be just any number of, you know, 1 times this times that, whatever, right? Like however it works out. But that's kind of why I think this hits so hard, and I think that the more you listen to it, the more you find, or your brain kind of connects micro moments of these things, whether it's like the 4 hitting up with an 11, or the 4 hitting up with the 7, or the 7 hitting up with 11 for the third time, right? It definitely feels kind of like that's what the appeal is, if I had to guess. Um, that this to me is the definition of fast and bulbous, right here. This is what that is to me.